Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Pat Flynn Show. This is your host, of course, Pat Flynn, and Dan John will be joining us shortly for a discussion on recovery workouts. How do we make sure that we have a good, how do we make sure that our programming has adequate resources for helping us to recover from the more intense training sessions? What should be included in a recovery routine? In a recovery routine? Whether you're doing it with kettlebells or body weight or something else. So that's going to be the theme of today's conversation with Dan. We're going to talk about recovery and mobility-based workouts. And I think you'll find this very interesting because just because a workout is recovery-based doesn't mean that it can't be fun, doesn't mean that it can't burn a bunch of calories. It doesn't have to be this boring thing that you lament. I know people often think, recovery routines, nobody wants to do that. I want to do the intense, sweaty stuff. But we're going to give you some resources, I guarantee it, as we move along, of some recovery workouts that you'll actually look forward to doing. You'll feel awesome. They're going to keep your joints healthy. They're going to boost the metabolism. They're going to flood you with all those feel-good chemicals, and they're going to give you longevity in your fitness routine. So Dan should be showing up in a couple of minutes. I wanted to start off with just a few announcements and preliminaries. We will, of course, be doing Q&A. So good morning to all of you. Please check in the comment section. Anthony, hello to you. Lucas, great to hear from you in New Jersey. Cheers. So whatever questions you have for myself and or Dan, please drop them in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe, all that good stuff. A few things before we begin. First, if you have not already, please do consider supporting this show by supporting our sponsor, Inverted Gear. If you need some awesome high-quality kettlebells at a very reasonable price with fast shipping, Inverted Gear is the place to go. And you get 15% off the entire inventory by using the link right below, which is invertedgear.com/discount/PatFlynn15, because you'll get 15% off anything you want. Their kettlebells are really awesome, and so are their clubs and all the other equipment. So if you like what we're doing here, one way you can support the show is by supporting our very good sponsor, Inverted Gear, by checking them out at invertedgear.com/discount/PatFlynn15. Would super appreciate it and promise you won't be disappointed. By the way, let me know what you're drinking in the comments. I've got my Chick-fil-A coffee, which as far as trash coffee goes is pretty good. Now, before Dan John shows up, I wanted to address something that has been brought to my attention more than once, and I don't know if I'm going to talk about it any more than just a few brief seconds here at the beginning, and maybe we'll get Dan's thoughts. He was involved in this, but I guess fairly recently. I haven't seen the whole conversation. I just don't have time for this stuff anymore, nor particular interest. I guess Steve Maxwell had some very harsh things to say about kettlebell training, and he brought Dan into it and Pavel and stuff like that, and seemed to claim that kettlebells are inherently injurious, that he wants nothing to do with them anymore. Again, I might be missing some context. I haven't seen the whole thing, but people have asked me to respond to this. Let me respond generally, if not specifically, because you often hear this claim a lot, and not just about kettlebells, that something is inherently dangerous, right? That lifting with barbells is going to wreck you, or dumbbells or kettlebells or what have you. And I think it's so important to recognize that tools in and of themselves, with rare exception when it comes to fitness tools, are not in and of themselves, typically inherently dangerous. Here comes Dan right now, but it says his devices are not connected, so I'm sure he's streaming in. So maybe we'll just loop him in on this conversation. Here it is. Okay, Dan, we're already live. Welcome to the stream.
How'd that happen?
We were just talking about you, actually. I wanted to talk about you behind the scenes. So now
then I'll disappear from it.
You know what? No, I need to bring you in because I was addressing something that I thought you probably don't even want to talk about it, but maybe you do. And I know you've already talked about it. Apparently, somebody who was once in the kettlebell world fairly recently had a lot of nasty things to say about kettlebell training and brought you and Pavel into it.
I know the story. In fact, I've had it.
And people have been bringing this to my attention, asking for my response. And I said, look, I haven't seen the video. Frankly, I'm not that interested. I've heard these remarks and similar remarks before. And I was just trying to explain to the gentle listeners the many areas where I think statements like this are exceedingly ignorant, especially when it comes to failing to differentiate between a tool as something that is inherently dangerous and how people can foolishly implement a tool, right? So, look, I have tweaks and injuries from lifting
Sure.
using many different implements. But I'll tell you, in none of those instances was it the implement itself. It was how Pat Flynn, the idiot, was using the implement, right? And that includes body weight exercises.
Yeah.
That includes martial arts. It includes everything, right? So it wasn't the barbell that hurt me. It wasn't the kettlebell that hurt me. It was Pat Flynn doing a ridiculous and stupid amount of volume and training intensity that was appropriate and ego-driven that hurt me. And that applies across the board. So I just get frustrated with remarks like these because they're so incredibly unnuanced, so incredibly ignorant. And then, of course, they brought Dan into it. So I felt like I needed to say a few things in defense of my good buddy.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, whatever you want to say about it. And then we can move on to, I wanted to talk about recovery workouts today. So I guess it's somewhat linked, but say what you want to say. Mm-hmm.
Well, the first thing, I did hear it. And the one of the things that bothers me most, the people who do this kind of thing are generally from the martial arts tradition. And in the martial arts tradition, they've always got this nonsense. In fact, if you want more information, go see the American version of The Office, where Dwight Schrute explains it constantly about honoring your mentors, honoring your sensei. So the people who usually come out and say this kind of stuff usually come from the martial arts tradition. Those of us in the throwing world, I mean, I heard one person say something kind of negative one time about their coach, and I was in the Olympic Training Center. And I remember there was like this moment in the whole group, like, and then the next day he went the opposite way. I'd heard that one time with a good friend of mine talking about his college coach and just saying all he ever did was give us blue pills, Dianabol. And, but those are the only two times I've ever heard in my world, someone saying something public. And even then they were both very narrow events. One was in a discussion. And the other one was at breakfast. But both times the throwers came out later and said, no, that was actually, there's a lot more to it. And I was just being grumpy or whatever. But the people in the martial arts tradition, when they leave, they seem to like to throw a lot of gasoline on their path and light it up.
It's funny because you see this within the martial arts tradition, irrespective of fitness. Like one guy leaves his old master and then feels the need to just trash his old master when he goes and starts his new studio.
Yeah.
This very sort of petty thing that goes on. You're right. It's I'm sure it's definitely not exclusive to the martial arts world, but you see it there a lot. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
And I heard the comments because someone played them for me on a podcast live, which I thought was as strange as you could possibly do anything. I said, yeah, I don't want to know. Let me play them for you. Yeah, I don't want to know. Well, let me hear this. First thing is, the attack on Pavel was weird because, Pavel hurt his elbow in competitive arm wrestling, wrist wrestling, arm, right. That thing. And so, I mean, I think when someone gets themselves hurt, either in a military kind of operation, auto accident, or in a sport, I always give him a pass because of the forces. And then, same person made that ignorant comment about he won't listen to me because, I've had hip replacement. Well, how many times, Pat, do I have to explain I was born with a condition? Folks, and it's not like, I did a bunch of anabolics and then, I was born with this heart issue. No, it's called pistol grip hips. My niece Danielle had a surgery, her first surgery. She was 18 months, maybe. It's a much more difficult thing than even I let on. I was in terrible pain even not even in junior college. I was starting to come into issues in college, clearly. To me, it's the same like making fun of somebody born with
clubfoot or something like that,
or intellectual issues. And it's fine, and that's. But if I've never thought it was a good idea to demean others. And I have a list of people I'd like to demean right now, frankly, gentle listener. But I don't need to knock people down to step on top of them. I like them standing tall when I step on them. Right.
It's also just like, look, critiquing a person, like not not every ad hominem is actually a fallacy. Like there's some contexts where like a personal critique is actually relevant to a general case, but there's other contexts where it clearly is just a diversion from the general point. And look, even if somebody has hurt themselves in training, that obviously doesn't negate the fact that they may have a tremendous amount of wisdom to share, including wisdom that was gained from their previous mistakes that led to their injuries, right? It's like, where's the nuance in these conversations? It's so profoundly dumb when people say things like
somebody talked me into watching that Ronnie Coleman. I didn't know. I honestly, and gentle listener, it's not. When it comes to my ignorance of bodybuilding, it's because of the word ignorance. I ignore it. I'm not being a jerk or anything. It's just not. It's never been something I was. It's not my cup of pink lemonade this morning. But I watched that documentary, and he's got all kinds of physical issues, having a hard time getting around. But it's like, yeah, okay, well, I mean, and yet in his world, he's kind of an immortal, and it doesn't take away his Mr. Olympia titles. But he's paying a high price for it now. So I mean, I don't know what to even say. That's kind of my thought, is that you pay a high price for this kind of stuff. We talked about this with my students last week about, hey, education in the United States is not free. And so I made a very specific reason. My brothers paid for their education by joining the military and getting their asses blown up. They each and every one of them told me not to do this. So when 4 people that you trust and would say, don't become a Marine or Army, throw the discus farther, I threw the discus farther. And of course, that paid for all my education. My education paid for all my daughter's education. Ideally, I'll pay for my grandchildren's education. Mm-hmm. And if this person has an issue with the fact that I limped some, probably about 2007 to about probably 11 were tough years, and then 2018. Of course, he hadn't seen me then. Was a couple of tough months, but I was smart then, and I said, "We're going down that road. I'll get this one fixed." And if that's an issue with this person, well, good for him, and he can go, do whatever he wants. But I know this about this industry is when bitter old person dies, it's never good.
Right.
And while I was gone, I guess somebody else said that the super heavyweight that lifted at the Olympics, the guy is probably going to be the first to snatch 500 and clean and jerk 600. His technique didn't match up to this expert's opinion. I'm like, oh, for God's sakes, what is going on? I leave the country for a couple of weeks and
just completely down the drain. Well, what do you expect, Dan? I mean, you weren't here to hold everything together. Anyways, we don't have to say anything more about it. I felt the need to just say a few brief things. That's part of the reason I hopped on early. I appreciate your thoughts. I think anybody with any, care for nuance, obviously is not going to pay much attention to anything that was said there. But anyway, we've addressed it. It's time to move on. Dan, you just got back from overseas. How's your training going? Update us, and then let's talk about recovery workouts before we take.
Well, this is what we need right now. I got in last night very late. We didn't do well in trivia. I'm sorry. The questions were against us last night.
So we need an emotional recovery workout.
I got a 20. I traveled for 24 hours to get there, and when I got there, I was a little tired. Real quick, I had to do first and second aid on the plane across the Atlantic. I was just sitting there. I was sitting there watching the movie Avatar. I made a vow to finish the movie Avatar.
Nobody finishes Avatar, Dan.
And it seems like God intervened. I just I feel this weird, sometimes your spider senses, and I just kind of looked over, and a woman passed out right next to me in the aisle.
Oh my. I
jumped up. She was looking rough, and I made sure her neck was. I made sure she was safe. Mm-hmm. And then when I went in to start doing the all that stuff they teach you in the first aid courses, she barely had pulse.
Was she choking?
No, she was not. Thank you though. I did the whole airway.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did the whole thing like I was taught. And then I kind of leaned up and I did I can really whistle loud. I'm a head coach, mm-hmm. Really loud. So I did 3 emergency tweets. I got no response. I did it another time, and then finally one of the flight attendants came up and helped, because they just everybody in Delta One at the time, I guess. Well, so hang on, there's more of the story. And then so we stabilized. When I felt her pulse here, I could feel nothing. But now later I learned why. Once I was just about ready to start chest compressions, and her eyes kind of did that little shaky shake opening, and we were able to have a low level communication for about a couple minutes, and then slowly she started walking out. Well, according to I don't want to point fingers, but the person with her didn't even notice, and we were probably doing this for an hour. And what the flight attendant thinks happens, and I guess it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue. People are taking different either antidepressants or Ambien.
Oh, yeah, just to deal with the anxiety of flying.
Or THC, and then drinking before they go onto a plane. So this woman, she wanted to go throw up and passed out with the whole pale sweat pass out you get. But the problem was, it was the look. I mean, if you pale sweat pass out right here, right there, and you come to, it's much different than 33,000 miles somewhere over Iceland,
Right.
But it was very, I got to admit, I got a little emotional after. No, I got a little teary eyed because it just, the stress of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've done the Heimlich. I'm 2 for 2 on the Heimlich, and I got a little emotional for both of those two because of the whole. Yeah, so the person who's ripping on my hip, the fact that I have pistol grip hip, should also remember the fact that I also spend a lot. I also step up when it's time to step up. So.
Yeah, well, thank God you were there, and thank God the woman is right. People, don't mix anxiety pills with alcohol. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Right. Oh, man.
And so about an hour or so later, I talked to the husband after he woke up from his nap, and I'm pretty sure he was probably pinging too. So he didn't seem very
didn't seem too with it, right? Yeah, dang, Dan. Well, so stressful trip on the way home. I'm really sorry to hear that.
Stressful on the way out because of all the COVID nonsense, and I'm supposed to go back to England in a couple of weeks, and I just don't see.
You just can't do it, right? Yeah.
The number of COVID tests that you have to take, and and it's great when you're flying there. It's like, it's no big deal. You just go to a pharmacy. Well, they charged me 139 pounds per visit. That's probably $180, $190 to get. So I probably spent $500 or $600 in this trip just for COVID testing.
Wow.
And that's not reimbursed, so.
Right. Yeah. What a shame. Well, sorry to hear that you had such rocky travels.
No, it was wonderful. Then I also, as you remember last week, so what my train will be today, in not long, Mike will show up and we'll have a nice tonic day and a walk. There's some house stuff around the house. Since the temperature cooled here a bit, I came home and my tomato plants have probably tripled in size in the 3 weeks.
Excellent.
It's scary how big they are. And I mean, the one is now, it's more of a tomato tree. There's one or two little things with I still have to finish fixing some of the damage from our little fund from, remember a couple of weeks back when we had the storms.
Right.
I'm probably have to go to one of those, hardware stores and just pick up a few things. It's not, and now we're down to like, $20 a fix is not $2,000. While I was gone, my new garage doors got put in, and they're insulated, and they're so much more quiet.
Right. And yeah, good timing.
So that was nice. The gates fixed, the storm doors fixed. We do have a little set of lights that has to be, fixed. But when you get down, when you look at what coulda, woulda, shoulda, we're doing okay.
Nice. Yeah.
I did lift hard a couple of times in the last week I was there, and I kind of wish I could have lifted unsick when I was at St. Mary's, because I really did I had some good lifts.
Had some good, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm invited back again, so I will continue this deep into the future. I don't mean, if I'm there for 2 weeks, I don't mind going through all the COVID nonsense, but if I'm if I'm speaking for 2 hours on Sunday, I just can't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very understandable. So then, all right, let's talk about. So I said before you hopped on that recovery workouts don't have to be stale. They don't have to be boring. In fact, I think that you're great at this. Your tonic routines are really engaging. You feel great afterwards. You often get a good sweat. You get the calorie burn. I think a lot of times people like want to dismiss these routines, but frankly, because they just like the higher intensity stuff. But we have to emphasize that if you want to get the most out of the higher intensity stuff, you need good tonic routines to help you recover, to keep your joints healthy, right? This is going to increase your performance in the long run. So maybe help just sort of set the stage of the importance of having good tonic recovery routines. And let's start giving people some examples of how to get it done.
So for examples, I got a few new ideas I want to share with the good people on your podcast.
Awesome. Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk about something real quick, a little odd thing. One of the things my daughter thinks I'm crazy, but I like to weigh in almost the moment I get off of an international flight. Mm-hmm. Coming home for her wedding and my brother Phil's funeral, when I weighed in, I weighed 261, but I probably weighed like 252 the next day. Yeah. Last night I got in and weighed 226, and this morning I was 219. There isn't a lot of bloat when you travel, but this is why I did the whole How Wonderful Is Me. One of the things I've picked up in the last few months with my perfectly named Easy Strength for Fat Loss with Olympic Lifting program, because that just
it's my favorite exercise program title of all time.
Rolls off the mouth. Is that once I moved to just 3 days a week of Olympic lifting and 2 tonic days, and then just 2 other days where I just kind of go for a mosey or a saunter. But here's what I want to get a point. When I was first doing it, and I wasn't really, I was losing weight, but it was a struggle, and I was doing heavy rucking, the big backpack, the hand weights, the ankle weights. For whatever reason, when Mike and I did the 2-week, the Rusty Moore visual impact fat loss boost, boy, that's another one too. And he recommended just walking. What was interesting is that just walking after I lift is more efficient for me for losing pounds and kilos off the scale than working hard. So, gentle listener and Pat, here's the point. Point number one I'm trying to make. Going easier accelerated my fat loss. The exact opposite of everything I have believed my entire life. Having said that, 2 of the workouts every week are restorative tonic workouts. And what I've noticed is I'm hungry after an hour of easy strength and flexibility work than I am after a hard workout. Mm-hmm. So it makes me think that there is a so even though you're opening up your joints with the mobility work and you're resetting, your flexibility, and you're getting your T-spine, and you're checking your rotation through your neck, and that does put effort. And what's interesting is that when I take those more seriously, and this is the $1 million thing, I think that accelerates fat loss. Mm-hmm. So do I agree with what I just said? This is, by the way, you need to listen to what I'm about to say, gentle listener. Do I agree 100% with what I just said? I don't know. I don't know if more easy days and easy walking leads to more fat loss. I don't know if that's true. But it's hard to ignore.
But we could think about it as a hypothesis and think through, why might this work? And I can think of a number of reasons it might work. One is people, don't let me jump ahead if you wanted to get to
I would say first and foremost, less cortisol.
Yeah, right. I mean, people are stressed out the wazoo to begin with. They're already sleeping poor. They're already taking anxiety pills with alcohol, right? That's never a good sign. So, cranking the intensity on every single workout on top of it, where you're already sort of at the limit in terms of what's called the X factor, the stress factor, right? Yeah. Might actually, for a number of people, have certain counterproductive aspects to it. So then it makes sense that if you make your workout still, they're calorie burns, right? You're putting metabolic demands on, but you're not crushing yourself. And in fact, they might have something of a soothing therapeutic effect in many ways of reducing stress. it actually isn't entirely surprising to me that you might get some of the results that you're talking about, Dan. Again, am I positive about that? No, but it seems to be call it a working hypothesis, right?
Right. So when it comes to recovery workouts, I've always believed that Thursday, because okay, and as you know, most of my athletes and myself have competed on Saturdays most of my career. So Thursday's always been the easy day, the 2-day lag rule. So Thursday's always the easy day. So that you can do anything you want on Friday, by the way. I have only had one athlete ever leave it in the gym on Friday. And honestly, he was just showing off, and that's on him. But so Thursday's always been this mobility tonic, go for a walk, feel good, but what I'm beginning to discover is that, okay, so a hot tub and a sauna and a steam room are all restorative, and they're very good. And so is a nap, and so is a 15-minute meditation, and so, right? But I'm starting to think that focusing on, of course, in the powerlifting tradition, they have the deload weeks. Sadly, my career, I had very, very few deloads. And when I finally started doing it is when that's my big leap, when I started to actually deload the every fourth week easy kind of thing. I hated it, man. But that's when I had my biggest jumps that have been starting probably in 91 when I started deloading seriously the first time.
Right. What's the lesson there, right? Sometimes you have to do what you need to do, not what you want to do. I had a long talk with my son about that last night. We had to take away some Pokemon cards. So, right, yeah.
1 out of 12, 4, 5, 9 in progress, huh? Jeez.
So, yeah, that's right. I mean, look, we can wrap the pill in bacon for ourselves sometimes, but sometimes we just got to take the pill, right?
That's right.
We just have to be adults and take the pill, right?
Is this Ron?
This is Ron. Yeah. Yeah, he had a book report due, and we made a deal, and I reminded him about it, and he was tardy. And Dad takes commitments like that very seriously.
Oh, you got to. What you want to do, I think, as a parent, is draw a lot of weird little lines early. Hold up to those, so you don't have to draw big lines later.
Dude, 100%, Dan. I think that is exactly right. Right, and I always explain to him why it's important. I say, like, look, does Dad, when he first gets up, does he play video games? I like playing video games. And he's like, no. I'm like, why don't I play video games? He said, there's more important things to do. I'm like, see, you understand, right? You do what's important first, and then you can have fun. Of course, we're not trying to be, we're not Puritans in the Flynn household, right? But we got to learn priorities early on, right?
I think that, I think on these restorative recovery workouts, there's a lot of ways to go. I haven't put it together completely yet, but I am probably in a video, probably sooner than later. By the way, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sound great.
Okay.
But yeah, gentle listeners, chime in if there's issues, or just let us know that you can hear Dan okay, because I want to make sure.
I had this idea about doing an original strength workout with just a little bit different, where I'm going to do 15 minutes of each movement, just 4 movements for 15 minutes. And it's weird. Here's some interesting things that's happening. I can't find 4. So my thought was, why don't we just do 3? So prone neck nods are find your shoes, 6-point rocks, and egg rolls. And it's like, everybody loves egg rolls. So
everybody loves egg rolls.
Why don't we just do it for 15 minutes, and
let me tell you, let me just stay right there. If people just start doing nothing else after this podcast, we're going to start giving you some practical tips. So take out the pen and paper here. Egg rolls and just rolling in general is just so, first off, it's an important life skill. And one of the things I'm so happy I learned as a martial artist is how to roll properly, right? Because there's been real instances in my life when I fell, and I know my rolling skills probably stopped me from getting hurt, right? And it just feels so good and so therapeutic to just roll around. It keeps you limber. It's fun to do. I do it with my kids. So rolling, egg roll, whatever kind of rolls, shoulder rolls, egg rolls, whatever you want to do. Just start doing some rolling, right?
Agreed. And keep going. I mean, the rolling, the rocking, the nodding. My friend Larry Draper taught me the word pendiculation, and that's when you. Okay, so I'm going to do this little thing here.
Is that like Presbyterian, Dan? Is that what that means?
It's more Mennonite, yeah. But I'm going to find this little area right here that's tough, and instead of going and cranking it back, I find where it's kind of biting, and then you just give it little. It's gone already. You just give it little tiny pumps. You roll in and out of that tight area, and then what happens is the body just, it kind of just gives way, and it does.
It realizes this isn't a threat, this position anymore.
Right.
And I think that's so much of good mobility and flexibility training.
Yeah, I'm just coming up with this, but this is
because it's it. Yeah, hop over on the video if you're listening on the podcast. You can see Dan give an incredible live demo right now. Here. Look at biceps looking good, Dan. Yeah.
Well, so St. Mary's leads the world, I think, in a lot of ways in that cuff training. That's where they shut it off and do the blood. So I did a cuff thing on Saturday, and I can still barely move my left arm.
Wow.
So people ask me about it, and here's a couple things. I get this question a lot. So what do you think of this? I can't remember the thing. Blood flow restriction cuffs. What do you think about it, Dan? I go, well, it's great, for rehab, but I just don't know if half of it can use it. Now I can look somebody in the eye and say, listen, I did it Saturday, Sun, the Mon, the Tuesday. I'm still very sore, I still can't straighten out my arm. That's as far as I can straighten out my arm. Well, as an Olympic lifter, it means having been able to lift for 3 days. Haven't been able to, if it was my right arm, I wouldn't be able to throw the discus. But if I'm injured and we're trying to get this thing back up, it's a good idea.
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, yeah, we have a question here. The question from Steve about I just so you know, Steve, I hate adjustable kettlebells.
All right, well, let's highlight it real quick. So Steve's question is, he says, dumb question. It's not a dumb question. It's a fair question. He says, what do you guys think of adjustable plate loaded kettlebell handles, either manufactured or do it yourself? Are they mostly good? Are they as good as cast kettlebells, better or worse?
I think the Hungarian core blaster is fine. That was that.
Describe that to us, Dan. What is the?
Basically, if you type in my name and Hungarian core blaster, you'll find the original how-to on it. In Tim Ferriss's book, he gives credit to somebody else for doing it because why actually get the information? No, he gives Dave Draper the credit. He gives Dave Draper that
might be accurate.
and I it's funny because I can guarantee one thing: Dave Draper never did one. But I got the name comes from a picture from the 1968 Olympics. Basically, it's a tube with a little base on it, and you slide 25 or 30-pound, 5-pound weights on it. There's a little handle, and you can do it. So, Steve, that's fine. I had to use that for a while because I didn't have any kettlebells. But once I got kettlebells, I don't think I ever used it again. So I could easily go up to 125 on that. But kettlebells I thought were far better. I was making a point about this.
We were talking mobility and tonic, so
yeah. So sometimes when so don't tell me you're not an Olympic champion because you don't have a sauna, hot tub, and steam room, and 24 massages a week, but you can certainly go out of your way to do a lot of do it yourself rehab stuff that might be probably better in some way. Just a quick point. I always think that if you don't have something and then you figure out a workaround. Okay, I like when I was a discus coach, we didn't have a discus ring nor a field. I think working around that issue made me a much better discus coach.
We've talked about this before, how restrictions, whether they are voluntary or involuntary, at least provide opportunities for creativity and ways of flourishing that might not otherwise have presented themselves. I think we can at least say that, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the good news right there. I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Now, the other time is like, just get the freaking kettlebell, right? Right. It's just like, so you don't have to make everything from scratch yourself. Kind of ridiculous, right? And yeah, just a handle with a bunch of weights on it. Like, now maybe there's some good iterations of that out there, but like immediately I think, how's that going to feel for cleans? How's that going to feel for presses? How's that going to feel? So like maybe it's something that you can use for heavier and heavier swings, but it's going to be very limited in a way that just getting a decent kettlebell is not, right?
I mean, I'm sure you could do it yourself in an Olympic bar, but honestly, by the time you're done with all with all the extra work and hassle, it probably wasn't worth it.
Right. I mean, look, I I actually do very few things myself, to be honest. Right.
Go anything.
Most of my life, yeah, very much takes advantage of our modern economy and all the various outsourcing. Right. So I do these podcasts. I can at least say that. So Dan, let's talk about some specific examples now of recovery and tonic workouts. If you were to give us like 2 or 3 go-to recovery tonic workouts, what do those look like that the gentle listeners can
Yeah.
take
Well,
and
I
begin implementing?
at our gym, we combine Tim Anderson's original strength moves, prone, rocking, the bird dog family. By the way, for my European listeners, pointers. That's what we call pointers here.
Is that
So
right?
they don't always understand the word bird.
I hear some of them call alfalfa rocket. Is that true?
No, irregular, irregular,
Arugula,
arugula,
rocket. Okay, yeah. Okay.
arugula is rocket. Yeah.
Thank you for the fact check.
Yeah, no, because I have to. Every time I go there, I have to remind myself of that because it's like, oh, it's got rocket in it. Oh, that's what it is.
That's right.
I would say Tim Anderson's original strength. We use Steve Ilg's vents for the wrists and the feet. Those are the big ones. There's another. We also do. There's a whole series of things we also do on TRXs. I call them the lotus positions. I don't. That's where you hang. You hang. You basically you sit. It's the TRX squat, but you sit down and then you lean forward, and then you do, pardon me, a stretch this way and do a stretch this way, and you do the stony stretch both ways. So I like that for flexibility as much as anything else we do. Gentle listener, if you don't know this, just look up the words Dan John, stony, STONEY, stretch, and windmill stick. Those would be the two. I mean, when in doubt, those would be my 2 go-tos. Okay, I said that.
And how would you? So that's great because as far as like a minimalist recovery workout tonic routine, just those 2 exercises, stony stretch and windmill stick.
Right.
How would you prescribe or just recommend people perform those?
I would take your time. I would prefer that you kind of did a few rounds of them if that's all you can do. But to be honest with you, the best mobility work I've been doing lately is I hang for 30 seconds every day and I sit at the bottom of Goblet Squat for 30 seconds.
Yeah, I love that routine. Did it the other day. Just feels so good. Yeah.
And
hips and shoulders.
If you build that up over a couple of weeks, you really do see it. You do see it. I don't know what you see, but you see something. You feel more comfortable popping down.
So I did something similar yesterday real quick. I just did we have a nice little street and there's a cul-de-sac at the end. So I just did like a light sort of jog, right?
Yeah, we
came back, got a very, very light kettlebell, hung out in the bottom of the goblet squat, came up, just did some nice not windmills, but you get the halos, right? Boom, back, hung out in the goblet squat, light little jog. So, got the heart rate up, got a little sweat on the brow, burned a few calories, and just felt like a new man afterwards, Dan.
I tell you, if you do the hang, you do the goblet squat, and
I didn't have anything to hang from, or else I would have done that.
And you go for a walk. I mean, honestly, you might. I mean, I would say those would be the biggest bang for the bucks.
And how do you feel about this? Because when I do those types of routines, they tend to be a little bit less structured for me. Because what I'll do is I'll just kind of like keep doing it and stop while I still feel good. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
I just kind of let a certain qualitative aspect be my guide. Like I never do it till I'm exhausted. In fact, I almost try to like quit when I feel like I'm at my peak of good feelingness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
I think that's that give and take, that rise and fall that we need in the program. When you read good people who do 3 days a week programs, this would be Tommy Kono, many great power lifters. Marty Gallagher has tons and tons of stuff on that. Where they have a hard Monday, Wednesday, Saturday training program. Okay. Well, what it does is it allows you to have those high highs and low lows. The mistake, and this is Charlie Francis, is what he told me, is that your highs are too low and your lows are too high. Mm-hmm. And so, everything ends up being medium, and which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with medium, except, it doesn't tend to work. We humans tend to be a bit more of a power law. We will never change anything until it gets hit by a hurricane. We won't change anything until it gets hit by a tornado. We're not taking climate change seriously until you come here in the West and there's no water and there's fires. We're funny creatures. We humans. We tend to and then we're amazing when we do overcome something bad. And the bulk of us just live day to day to day to day. One of the things that will surprise most people, I travel a lot, is around some of those beautiful sites in the world, the ones that you see in all the pictures, is how filthy the areas are with the trash and human feces and just the mess.
I've heard, so I haven't traveled internationally a lot, but I've consistently heard that about, I won't mention any places because it will make people angry in the comments that they live there. I know people get really sentimental about their hometowns. Look, I'm from Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a garbage city. I'll just say it, right? I never want to go to Philadelphia again. I've got no hometown pride. They just have way too much to clean up. Just get over yourself at some point,
I
right?
remember one time someone took me to this place because there are these two places that are right next, and they were arguing over which one had the better Philly cheesesteak. After
Philadelphia will kill you if you imply that you can get a better cheesesteak outside of Philadelphia, right? And there's something really deranged about Philly sports fans as well that I never quite understood. Put that aside. We'll leave that for another conversation. Okay. But yeah, I've heard that about certain cities that Americans have a very romantic vision of. But then I've had friends that went to vacation there and they're like, actually, it was filled with trash and I was really disappointed.
And there's graffiti and there's human poop everywhere.
Yeah, right.
And literally human poop. So we're either, but I tell you one thing, if it got hit by a bomb, you would come there 6 months later and it would be pristine.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
This isn't me saying, this is just the way we work as humans. We tend to work better on the edges, so make your hard workouts hard and make your easy workouts easy.
Yeah.
So recovery should be easy. So that's why I like having Mike Brown run the recovery workouts, because I don't think he just says, okay, let's do this now. And I'm like, I am one with my universe. My chakras are in line with my yin, I don't think, I just do what he says. And there's great value. I mean, that's why I like going to an organized yoga class where someone just tells you what to do. And then most of the time just shows off how good they are and how much.
Yeah, right.
It'd be like me teaching a class where, okay, we're going to learn how to do the Olympic lifts today.
All right, everybody, come on. Let's do 500-pound overhead snatch. Come on now.
Here we go. Oh,
everybody follow along, right? Yeah. Let's talk about, all right, so we've given a couple of ideas here: rolling, rocking, just playing around with original strength, hanging, goblet squats, windmill sticks, stony stretch, given lots of good resources.
Yeah.
Do you think your 30 for 30 framework can fit with a good tonic recovery routine?
In fact, I have that on the YouTubes. I have that as a tonic workout.
Yeah. So explain maybe just quickly what that might, right. Yeah.
I think it's 30 for 30 tonic. But what happens with the
tonic?
Let me
see if I can find a link. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that you kind of go from, you don't really need to, but it would be nice. And I've talked to some people about this, of structuring a mobility workout where you would take like 5 big TRX stretches. You would take 5 original strength floor things, prone and 6-point, maybe 2 and 3 of each. And then you would go, okay, we're going to do what I call the TRX long stretch. Oh, what is that?
Look what I found.
Well, that's on the,
this is on danjohn.net. It's called the Tonic Mobility Workout. Can everybody see that? So okay. Finish your point, Dan, then maybe we could talk about this a little bit.
Where you would mix like the long we call it the long stretch. It's that squat where you're pushing your butt straight back and you're just, it becomes a lower back. It just opens up your lower back because you're in the middle of a tug of war. Mm-hmm. And then the next exercise, maybe 6-point rocks. And then the next exercise, a TRX left stretch. And the next one would be a 6-point rock with the leg out stretch, and just kind of mix and mash. So you're standing up and laying down, standing up and laying down. So there is a little bit of heart rate going on, but you have 30 seconds to get up off the ground. You have 30 seconds to get back on the ground.
Yeah, cool. Mm-hmm.
So you really turn the engines down. Yeah.
Very good. So let me just read this quick for people who
Hmm,
are just listening, and
okay.
then maybe we could just offer this as a final consideration and resource for the gentle
Final
listeners.
consideration.
Just for yeah, again, we're just giving ideas and considerations here. People can take what you want, leave what you don't, as always. So this is the Tonic Mobility Workout. This is on danjohn.net. Looks like it was published in 2015. We will link it in the show notes. And we have a sort of an interesting, cool combination here, Dan, between swings, goblet squats, and marching in place. So the general structure looks like this: you do 25 swings, you do one goblet squat, then you do 10 march in place, and then you
Okay.
do a TRX deep squat stretch.
That's the
And
one
then
that we call it. Yeah.
and then it looks like you keep the swing, goblet squat, and march structure in place. You're always coming back to 25 swings, one goblet squat, 10 march in place, but then you're switching up the mobility or the stretching exercise in between that with TRX long stretches, stony
Yes.
stretches, windmill sticks, and all sorts of other good fun stuff. Does that sound right?
That sounds very right to me.
This looks awesome. So is there anything else you want to comment about that or just highlight about this? And is this something that you still recommend to the gentle
Um,
listeners?
is it too much for some of our? I mean, I would worry it's too much for some people. Having said that, boy, how many swings does that end up being?
Well, what if you even just dumped the swings out and just kept the goblet squat resting at the bottom, marching in
Mm.
place, and then so if
Oh,
it feels too much for people, my quick thought is
yeah,
just reduce or get rid of the swings, hold the bottom of the goblet squat, and then it's just all money, right?
it's all money, and I really like what you're saying there. I like that simple adjustment. Um, I think sometimes I'm pretty sure I have links in that one, or I say there's links in that one. You can never trust YouTube links after a few months. If you've ever, when you write something on the internet, the YouTube link very rarely is the same a couple months later.
Let me put that in the show notes here so people can
Thank
have
you.
the link to check that out
Oh,
for
there you go.
themselves. Yep. Boom. Perfect. So there you go, gentle listeners. Dan, yeah, I know we said that was a final consideration, but is there anything else you want to put out there before we take some questions from the gentle audience?
Yeah,
Gentle questions from the gentle audience?
I mean, if you have the courage to train really hard 3 days a week. Now, obviously, if you're doing something, a technical discipline like the hammer throw, discus throw, I'm talking about 3 days a week in the weight room, and have the discipline to have 2 or 3 restorative mobility, flexibility workouts, whatever you want to call it, maybe 2. So you're gonna allow that natural waving to happen. Hard, easy, hard, easy, hard, easy. The Bill Bowerman program from Oregon University distance running. Of course, he had to basically take a gun to some of his athletes and threaten them to not run hard every day because they just thought the answer was to always race. And of course, if you're racing on an easy day, what are you saving for the hard days? And so your highs get too low and your lows get too high. So that would be so. And here's the funny thing: I do think it helps for fat loss, and I do think it helps for strength. So win,
There
win,
you
win.
go. Win, win, win. Let's turn to some questions. So, gentle listeners, please submit whatever you have. We've got a couple minutes left, so we'll gladly tend to any of your comments, concerns, questions. This one comes from Saul.
Hmm.
Saul says it's hard for self-driven type A personalities, but we like formatted discipline. And I think he's referring to it's hard to get yourself to do these sort of lighter workouts, right? Yeah, granted. But he says these tonic workouts seem like a great way to force in easy days too, if you can deliberately schedule them. So, Dan, I'm sure you've run into this. You may have even felt the temptation yourself, as I certainly
Yeah.
have, to just forgo the easier necessary recovery days and just keep hitting it hard. So what do
Yeah.
you recommend in that
Well,
situation?
I mean, it's great if you always want to win the gym. It just remember, no one cares if you win the gym. They care at the end of the day when you're up on the podium. And this is a lesson that I had to learn the hard. I mean, I'd love to sit down with little Danny John and say, bro, you go hard when you go hard. Quit doing all these medium, high rep days. But I don't know if he'd listened because, You know, you look at all you got to do is turn on a TV and you're going to have that commercial of everyone just going for it. And truth is, that's just not the way elite performance works in anything.
Mhm.
Sometimes, you know, you just, you just gotta, I do like hard, easy the best. I've really moved away from medium.
Mhm.
In Never Let Go, I think I have an article because I Hate Medium. Dan Fouts famously said, Dan, why do you hate medium? And I said, well, why do you say that? He goes, because you always say you hate medium. Oh, yeah, that's right, I do. Go hard when you go hard and go easy when you go easy. And
Right.
don't worry about medium because that'll take care of itself, you know?
Yeah, just sort of training on the extremes. I like that. I like that a lot. So yes, I'll just say this, I think you're in the right direction here, Saul.
Yeah.
Schedule it in, plan for it, and stick to the plan. If you just bank on doing what you feel like, and you know that you have this personality type, and I think I'm inclined to that myself, that you're only going to do something if it's absolutely crushing. Yeah, not good. Get it on paper. Get yourself a good structured plan. Make sure that you're scheduling these specific tonic recovery days, and you'll thank Dan later. I promise.
You will.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from gentle listener Aaron Bennett. Aaron says, if I'm training clients a few days a week with push, pull, hinge, squat, and loaded carry, would you recommend some hypertrophy days of curls and tricep pushdowns, etc., to supplement the in-between days?
Boy, that just about goes the opposite of what we just said, doesn't it? Here's the thing. I would just schedule in somewhere in the training program, like a 5 or 10 minute, optional. Some of the coaches I know, that's what they do with their collegiate athletes and their high school athletes, is they have an open time where, and here's a suggested arm workout. Here's a suggested ab workout. The ladies will do the ab workout and the men will do the arm. So yeah, I'm fine with it. I just don't work too hard on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're gonna do that, and certainly, bicep curls you recover pretty quickly from. So, I never have an issue with people's like, "Can I throw in a few sets of bicep curls?" Yeah, please go ahead. Indulge yourself, right? I don't think you need an entire day for it, right? I think like what Dan said is, just schedule it in sort of after you do your pushing and pulling.
Or just hire someone to do that damn cuff thing for you, so you don't have to straighten out your arm anymore.
Yeah, no kidding, right? And I actually think that, there can be some benefit to doing these more isolated movement patterns as supplementary work for various reasons. But yeah, Dan has good advice on that as always. So, all right, Bob Hicks has a question, and good old Bob says, for a tonic workout, he says that's a new term for him. So thanks. Are you generally using
it's the same root as the word tune, like you tune a violin, you tune a guitar. So a tonic workout is a tune-up. Go ahead.
It's a tune-up workout. Perfect. He says, are you generally using a lower weight kettlebell for these?
Oh, yeah. I mean, but as appropriate, if I go too light on goblet squats, I don't get, I don't get the depth. Yeah. Of course, I got a lot of years under that bridge. So,
And given your general capacity, Dan, I mean, I'm sure, a 2024 is still light.
Yeah.
It's light for you, right?
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah. A 20. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, Bob, obviously if you're just going for the kind of movement quality, stuff like this, you're going to be easing up considerably on the intensity. I mean, when I'm just doing like windmills for the sake of mobility, like 12 kilogram, very, very light halos, for that routine I did yesterday, did my little jog, came back. I think it was a 12 kilogram. On these days, I honestly don't even really look at the weight. I just, there's a smallish kettlebell from my garage, pull it out.
Yeah.
I think it was a 12, sit in the bottom of the goblet squat. Cause it's really a mobility tool for me at this point. It's not something
very nice 14s that I bet you I've done a bunch of stuff with, because the 14 looks to me, because it's got the finish of it looks like a 20.
Yeah.
And I've noticed when I picked it up, it's really light. And but when I start doing, like you said, like the halo kind of things and all those, it just feels right. I think that's Brian just pinging. Yep. That was my friend, Brian Gwaltney.
Well, hello, Brian.
Hi, Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, so if it just feels right, feels good. For me, I'm looking for something that's going to help me get the mobility aspect, a stability challenge, but I'm not obviously trying to get like an enormous pump or you know strength challenge from
Yeah.
something like that. So I eyeball it. Steve says avoiding ad hominems. We try to do that on this podcast,
Yeah.
right? Is Pavel's advice generally good? What are some of the best parts, and are there any areas where you disagree?
Well, I mean, I've seen Pavel teach large groups, and I know his people. He's taught one-on-one. I think his style in large group is solid. I think he's a solid coach in large group. Um, in one-on-one, he's very good. I would love to see him coach like a high school team, like for about a 3-month period after the dew is off the lily or whatever the cliche is. I'd like to see that, because that's very often, and this isn't like me challenging him. I just more of, I think I do really good when I'm the keynote speaker, and I think I do really good when I'm working with somebody who knows my work. But at 3 months, I tell you, it scrubs the kind of scrubs the BS out of things. Yeah, I think Pavel's advice on tension, I think his mobility and flexibility work is, I would say, truly groundbreaking. He certainly has taken some interesting information from a number of traditions and put it into flexibility. I think,
And he's including you, right? I mean, you influenced him significantly in some of
yeah.
his work as well.
Um, he's very good about knowing, he knows his lane. He doesn't talk about nutrition. I mean, he makes jokes about, we all have our little nutrition jokes, but he does a real nice job with that. He stays in his lane really well.
Yeah, that's an interesting and good point. It's just, staying restricted, right?
I'd like to be much more in my lane, but that would be impossible, frankly, because when I go to workshops, people pay, like these last couple of weekends with all the workshops I did, people paying a lot of money, and I'm not going to answer, geez, I don't know. I've talked to the most famous people in the world, but I don't want to tell you, so I feel like I have to
And
share.
and it's okay to go out of your lane. You just do it with qualifications. Be like, hey, look, I'm not a world-class expert on this, but like we said on this podcast, here's a working hypothesis,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
You don't have to say like this is the absolute way to do this. You say, here's something I'm working with. Here's why I think it's fruitful. Here's
yeah.
what gives me reasons to think that this is worth investigating. And if you
Yeah.
just put things like that and you're just honest with people, then yeah, I think that there's just a lot of good that come out of that. And then if you get some pushback, like you haven't taken such a strong dogmatic stance on something, that hopefully you yourself will be receptive to
Right.
feedback
When
and
I
you'll
talk
be able to learn and grow. So it's
when I
just,
talk
for
about
me, it's a
hip
matter of
thrust,
just positioning on a lot of
yeah.
these things, right?
When I talk about hip thrusts, I talk about my work with Brett Contreras at his house, hotel hallways, at his various places of employment, the different gyms, these conversations the two of us have had. I feel like I have because of my relationship with Brett, I feel like I can talk about it with kettlebells, because of Pavel, yourself, and others. I feel like I can talk about things from nutrition. John Duquesne, pardon me, John Duquesne. John Berardi has a slide in his Perform Better. It says, "Don't be like Dan John." And it's part of his. It's part of his. It's very funny. It's very. By the way, it wasn't like this other person. It's very laudatory and kind. But his point is, sorry about. I'm trying to get my hydration back up after a long time in a plane yesterday. But, John will say, I'm kind of a one-off with my background and things. So, it's going to be real hard to replicate how I did things. But in your case too, it's going to, I think that's why we have good conversations, is neither of us comes from this, what is now almost a lockstep approach to getting to where you want to be.
Right.
So yeah, so Steve, I can say very loudly and proudly that I like Pavel's work very much. Obviously, one thing I think hurts him a little bit, and this is going to sound strange. Sorry about my phone. Is that I've done a lot of his programs for him in testing out, and so a lot of his programming comes from volunteers doing the program who don't necessarily want to give, bad feedback. And what's nice when you're in real time with 50, 60, 70 athletes is that you get feedback in real time. And I'm not saying that's bad or good. It's just very often when he tries out some new ideas, like with his pressing and squat programs from about, I don't know how many years ago it was, 7 or 8, 6, 7, something like that. My gym became a real test site for him, and we did not have great results, and it really helped him a lot that I was candid.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the ways you can help Pavel and you can help everybody is just be candid with your results. And Pat, if you don't mind, my shoulders hurt, so I can't pat my own back. But when I read your book, what do I do? What do I do?
Well, you followed it, and then you were very candid, and the feedback you gave me was very direct, very helpful, a lot of good, but you did have some very fair criticisms that hopefully it's been shown that I've carried those forward with much consideration, right? Mm-hmm.
And I did everything as you told me. I did the 180 days. I did of your program. And when I was done, I said, the variation of the metabolic condition was killing me because I spent the whole time looking at a piece of paper.
Right.
Well, and by the way, bad criticism? I don't think so at all.
No, I mean, that's good stuff. And they haven't asked me to revise the book yet. It still sells well. So I actually imagine I probably will get an opportunity to write a new edition at some point. I hope so, maybe not. And if they do, you can be darn sure that the original feedback you've given me and all the subsequent feedback will be incorporated into that, right? Mm-hmm.
And really, I mean, honestly, if you had 10, in fact, you even have the names already. I love the names you have for your, the Dragon Slayer and the blitz and bombing of Pat Flynn's ab wall or whatever. You got great names. Just have 5 to 10 of those in your metabolic thing, and with a few options. And that's why I like the Humane Burpee and the Armor Building Complex and some of those almost idiot-proof programs, because you can just say, okay.
Right. Yeah. And if you go beyond my book at this point, and don't get me wrong, like I think if you don't have my book, you should get it and just listen to Dan John's critiques, and you'll be pretty much be set. But all my subsequent programming is just the evolution of my thinking in light of the critiques and feedback that you've given me and everybody else. Right. So
the other thing I really enjoyed about our conversations, how many years ago did you come out with Paleo Fitness for people who are dummies and need more love?
Yeah, paleo workouts for dummies. Was that 2012 or 2013? It was a long time ago.
I think it was 8 years ago or so. Yeah. And the nice thing is, you have discussed several times here on our little our podcast about how the one-arm pull-up, you would just say nope.
I would just scrap it. It would not be in the second edition of that book.
And I would even say, you have dips in there, and I would even say maybe a regression or a dip regression or two.
Yep.
Just, I'm not, and don't hear this as being, this is me walking with you, not criticizing.
This is why we have Dan John here. I just put the link in the show notes. I actually do a terrible job of promoting my own book, that book. Dan, you've probably sold more copies of that book for me than I have at this point. So I owe you a coffee when you come out to say
wow. So
it's not letting me post a link. Does Facebook not let me?
No, it's up there. It's up there.
Oh, okay. It says an error occurred. I was wondering if they just don't let me post
I'm looking at, in fact, or something like that. Pat Flynn and Pat Flynn both have posted it.
There it is. So, hey, $12 on Kindle, not bad. $20 for the paperback. It's a For Dummies book, so it's substantial, and
it's thick.
There's a lot of material in there, so you guys might enjoy that.
And you know what you do? Oh, hold on. I have my cheat sheet, Pat Flynn. Hold on just a second. I got the Pat Flynn cheat sheet right here. If it's the one I'm thinking,
Is it?
Oh no, I'm sorry, brother. I'm looking for the one that has the all 180 days. Less is more. My notes on Pat Flynn. My notes on Pat. The minimalist. Oh, that's your minimalist pro. That's very good. Yeah, that's a good program. Yeah. I'll see if I can find them, and I won't work very hard. But if they pop
Yeah,
up,
please don't. Well, you know what? Maybe it might be fun for an episode, because I'm always happy to put myself out there where we actually just go through a bit of the programming and talk about the tweaks and
hey, let's
feedback. Yeah,
tell you what, let's make that next week.
let's do that next week. We'll go through my paleo workouts book. So in the meantime, gentle listeners, grab yourself a copy and you can follow along. But Dan, don't let me just plug my own stuff here as we wrap up. Make sure will tell us what's coming down the pipeline at Dan John University, and what can people expect over there.
One quick thing. Tube You Man, you asked about overhead carries. The only issue, I don't like double, single. Okay, so I don't like a 24 kilo on one hand and a 24 kilo in the other hand overhead carry. Only because if something bad happens, you step on a rock or your shoe has an issue, you're now trying to control two bells. I have no issues with barbell overhead walking, but if it's single kettlebell overhead, that's all I approve of. Okay, that's enough. So we will be coming out in just a few days with the Easy Strength, the second Easy Strength course, and I'm very excited about it. Yeah,
awesome.
I got the things I'm supposed to do. In fact, I might even do it today. The film. I still feel like I'm a little bit below from the flight, but it's I have the introduction notes that I'll go over, and it's like, one of the things about Easy Strength for the advanced person is that ideally you should spend more time, because of that, trying to get your technique to be more stretch reflex or rubber bandy, your actual technique. And I talk in depth about that. I talk in depth about the squat, why the squat tends to not work, getting hypertrophy from handstand push-ups and back squats. Is it because you take the grip out of it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so this is just something that's simple. It's those kinds of little insights that come up a long time. Okay.
Excellent. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, next week I'll have to do my homework and reread my book. That'll be fun. That'll be a good programming exercise for the gentle listeners. We'll make the headline: Dan John destroys Pat Flynn's fitness book. Yeah, we'll get a real exposes. That's good. We'll get a real fiery headline: exposes Pat Flynn's paleo
nonsense workout.
Well, I will be greatly looking forward to that. Dan, as always, thank you so much for the great conversation. Lots of great stuff here,
my friend.
Gentle listeners, try these mobility routines. Let us know what you think in the comments. Your comments help. Please like, subscribe, share, and check out Dan John University. So, Dan, same time next week?
Same bat time.
Same bat channel.
All right. Love you, man.
See you, Dan. Yep. God bless.
Bye-bye.